is now the best time to actually buy Bitcoin. With everything going on right now with the wars, with the printing of money, everyone's looking for scarce assets to invest in. And right now, I personally believe that's probably the best time to get involved in Bitcoin, backed by the data and backed by the whole core theory of what Bitcoin is supposed to do. Now, we're going to hop into some of the charts here, but I also want to go over some of the main reasons of why Bitcoin was created, because it's made for times just like this. If we go back in time and we look at all currencies, all governments have printed it over and over and over again. In fact, there's a book called The History of Central Banking and the Enslavement of Mankind, where it goes over essentially debasements of currency. And debasements of currency simply means that that dollar or that coin that they used to transact became worth less and less and less over time. Now, how does that occur and why does this happen? Well, in our new economy, where we're able to essentially print dollars digitally, the US government, whenever we have a need or whenever we have issues, we are simply just borrowing more money from the Federal Reserve. In fact, during COVID, we printed more than 40% more US dollars into circulation. And what essentially that means is that we have increased the money supply. And with simple supply and demand economics, the more supply of something and the less demand for something, the weaker that thing becomes. Now, the US dollar has had strong demand, so it can support some strong supply and an increase in supply. But we're starting to see countries like Russia, China, and all these other BRICS countries start to ask questions and say, hey, is this US dollar still something that we want to have? Is this something that we still have demand for? We have the yuan wanting to be traded in the oil markets, and all these things are challenging the demand for the US dollar. But if we bring that back again towards all of the countries that have historically printed money, that dollar has become worth less and less and less. And the whole point of Bitcoin was to create an asset that has a fixed supply, and as demand grows for that thing, the actual price goes up along with it because, again, it is scarce. So with everything going on right now, my personal opinion is that these governments and everything, they are fighting over resources and backing their currency with military strength and commodities. So oil, gas, resources, and even people are looked at as a source of energy and as a way to produce for their economies. And so what I personally believe, again, what's going on in Ukraine, Russia, is a lot of this commodities and territory war to essentially give them more economic strength and viability. So when we look at Bitcoin and the whole purpose why it was created, back in 2008, when the financial crisis happened, we had our first massive print. And this print bailed out Wall Street and bailed out all of these mortgage-backed securities. And essentially this was created in order to be a money for the people, by the people, that had a fixed supply. So it cannot be manipulated. It cannot be infinitely printed and the value of it continued to go down. And whether we used it as an exchange or not, it was at least looked at as an inflation hedge. Because if I bought into Bitcoin and I held one from 2008 till now, we've obviously seen the price of Bitcoin now be over $30,000. It would consistently show that you would outpace the printing of the dollar, other investment assets outside of maybe a penny stock and stuff. But it's been something that we can transact with and hold value in. And so the whole power behind Bitcoin was to create this currency and this thing that can actually outpace the printing of money. And maybe it's not that big of an issue here in the United States. Well, a lot of people perceive it that way, and I believe it's still a big issue. But compared to other countries, we see inflation rates of 80%, 100, 150%, where currencies literally go to zero, and it takes millions and millions of these pieces of paper to actually buy things and actually, keep people warm or pay for energy. So Bitcoin historically, again, has been an asset that has been a hedge against the printing of dollars that make it worth less. So if we go into some of the technicals around what that actually means, this indicator here is the 2-year moving average. And essentially what this looks at is the price over a period of time and seeing where the ebbs and flows are for demand for the actual token, okay? So Bitcoin, when it first came out, had a lot of demand, and obviously this data is now back tested. In the beginning, it was the wild, wild west, you didn't have this data as readily available. But this website, Look Into Bitcoin, kind of gives it to you. So if we look back in 2011, we saw Bitcoin hit $30, and I'm sure that would be nice for all of us to go back in time and pick some of that up. But this red line here indicates 5x the moving average, okay? The moving average is essentially the price throughout time. Now, the green line is the 2-year moving average, where it shows essentially what the price of Bitcoin is during that period of time. Now, we can see this green line, anytime that the price of Bitcoin goes beneath it, it has historically been a great time to buy, where if it is above the red line, which is 5x this green line here, it has been historically a good time to sell if you're trying to trade this asset, okay? So when we look at that over time, every single bull run cycle then has a bear market cycle where Bitcoin becomes a great asset to buy. And essentially, you want to sell the high and buy the bottom if you're trading this asset class. So we can see that historically, over time, it has been a good time to buy in this green zone. And right now, we are in this green zone. And we're about to, in my opinion, exit out of this, especially with all the stuff going on with the wars, with the printing of money, and with the challenge to the US dollar, or at least it being a conversation. I don't think that the US dollar is going to get replaced entirely anytime soon, especially with the new CBDCs coming out. But now would be the time, according to this graph here, to actually look to stack more Bitcoin. Now, obviously, this is not financial advice. These are all my personal opinions, guys. But if we look at kind of some of the things going on, this is where my head is at and some of the things that I'm studying. So, is now a good time to buy Bitcoin? Again, I think it is, just based off of everything going on and the ability to control your energy, your monetary energy outside of this entire system. I think it's a no-brainer to start buying some at this time. Now, with that said, do your own research, look into, again, everything going on and see if it's the right fit for you. But if you did find value out of this video, go ahead and hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.